a lot of people think that you need to have money to get started in real estate investing, and they're somewhat right about that.
Welcome to the Old Fashioned Real Estate Show, where hosts Brian Leverage and Jeffrey Holst pour out old fashioned real estate advice.
Episode 21.
Welcome back to the Old Fashioned Real Estate Show. I'm Brian Leverage.
And I'm Jeffrey Holst.
And we look forward to another episode with you, our valued viewers. We're going to get started today talking about something which is getting started, right?
That's exactly right. We're going to get started by talking about getting started. So this video is really about what you do if you don't have real estate now and how you should be thinking about getting started in investing in real estate.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody, believe it or not, starts from a similar place. That is, they don't have any experience typically. Right?
Well, I mean, I think everyone starts from having no real estate.
Right.
Unless you happen to be born into a super rich family
Yes.
and have a bunch of real estate at birth. You're probably starting out with very little knowledge or real estate. And one thing I think is really important before you even get started is to think about what your goals are, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's not on our outline, but when you think about your goals, you're going to want to think about, like, do you just want to make some money?
Yeah.
Do you just want a pile of cash, or do you want cash flow? What kind of returns are you looking for?
Exactly.
That sort of thing.
And there's a couple things that go into that factor, right? So
Sure.
Risk is the first one, which, risk is pretty straightforward.
Right. Well, I mean, I think when you're looking at returns, right,
Yeah.
there are three things that matter, and risk is clearly one of those. The more risk that you're willing to take, the higher potential return you can get. If you're willing to invest in inner city Detroit, you could potentially get a much better return, but there's a lot more risk to that property than investing in like a skyscraper in Manhattan. Now, the return might be significantly lower there, but there's a lot less potential risk.
Exactly. All right. And the big one, at least for me, is effort.
Sure. And we did a whole video on this under the passivity scale, which we'll tag above us. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, the more effort that you spend on it, the better return you're going to get. You're actually mitigating risk by putting additional effort in.
Exactly. And then knowledge, okay? Again, when you're starting out, no one expects you to know everything, but you do need to learn and do so quickly. If you
Right. And knowledge is market knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's power, but it's market knowledge, right? It's knowledge about real estate in general, different ways to structure real estate deals, strategies. And all of, by watching our video, you're already gaining knowledge. Not just this video, but all the videos we do are about learning things about the real estate market and about real estate in general. And so the more knowledge you have, or really the more effort you put into acquiring knowledge, the better returns you potentially can get.
So a lot of people think that you need to have money to get started in real estate investing, and they're somewhat right about that. Because depending, again, on the strategy, most strategies, I mean, if we're talking about owning rentals, whether they be residential or commercial or flipping houses, you need to come up with you need to have some sort of capital reserve for both acquisition and your holding. But there's a bright side to that.
Well, so the short answer is you do need money, right?
Yes.
Like, no one's going to sell you real estate without money. But where that money comes from might be your savings, but it also could be a partner's money, or it could be a bank's money.
Exactly.
And in a lot of cases, I mean, it's going to be a combination of your own money and other people's money. And we can, you can make a whole show about other people's money, and there's probably plenty of videos on YouTube about that already. But the point is, you do need some money, but it doesn't necessarily have to be all your own money.
The important takeaway, and I say this as somebody who used to be president of a real estate investors association here locally, is you don't need to have 20, 30, or 50,000 in your own bank account to get started, nor do you need to use traditional bank financing. There's a lot of alternate strategies that we'll discuss in other episodes, and a little bit here even now.
And that's where knowledge comes in, right?
Yeah.
So, like, just a quick example would be like, if you have a lot of market knowledge, you might find a really good deal. If you find a really good deal, someone's going to be willing to loan you money to buy that deal.
Yeah.
And in some cases, you and I have been able to use like hard money lenders to buy property, fix it up with hard money, go refinance it, and have none of our own money into a deal.
Right.
Which, of course, only comes because of our unique skill set of having done those kind of deals before and the knowledge that we've acquired.
Yeah, something I used to do, which is getting into the weeds a little bit, is, when I was first starting and I was flipping houses on my own, I had, friends from school, long-term relationships,
Sure.
people that trusted me and also trusted my vision, which, goes back to the knowledge part of it.
They must not have known about your eye.
Right. Well, that's obvious. Yeah. So, but what I would do is we would structure deals where I found the deal, I ran the project, they put up the money out of their self-directed retirement account or IRA, and we split the profit on the back end.
Sure.
So they got a tax-free return. I generated an income for myself that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to do without using other people's money.
Right, and the more creative you get, the more kind of options that you have like that. I mean, everyone has to use whatever resources that they have. If you have a bunch of money, then you don't need to go ask people to borrow money from them. But if you have no money, but you have time and effort to put into it, you can go maybe borrow from your uncle or your dad or whatever it might be. Somebody probably has some money, like your friends with their self-directed IRAs.
So then another way of doing it, getting started, is there is not really a right answer here. I think we'd both agree on that. There are different ways to make money in real estate, right? The way that many people start when they're first getting into it is they'll do wholesaling, right? Where they'll find something, put it under contract for cheap, and then they'll either try to sell that contract or that deal to an end investor who will then, do the rehab and either rent it out or sell it, flip it. But some people are more into just owning rentals. I think you'd probably put yourself solidly in that camp.
Yeah, I mean, so this is something that Brian and I have actually waxed a little bit about on a previous episode, on one of I think it was the question and answer episode, right? But basically, my philosophy is that not everyone needs to flip houses to buy real estate. Brian thinks that like everyone should take a dual approach, and they should generate cash by flipping, right? I think that's what you would say, and then generate long-term wealth by buy and hold real estate, or some combination of the two. Yeah. And I don't think that's wrong for most people, but I do think that if you have a really high W-2 income and you've got a ton of cash saved up, or you just inherited $10 million and you don't know what to do with it,
in which case you're probably not sitting there watching this episode, but
you never know.
But we hope.
Maybe you'll inherit $10 million while you're watching this episode. If that happens, I'm going to give you Brian's cell phone number.
We should talk.
Now, in all kidding aside, though, if you do inherit some money, my recommendation to you would be to get as much education as possible, because what you don't want to do is lose money that you
take a large fortune and be really good at turning it into a small
right.
fortune.
Well, the quickest way to become a millionaire is to inherit $2 million and lose $1, right? So we need to try to avoid doing that if you do inherit some money. But the point is, how you get the money, there's a tremendous number of possible ways to do that. It could be your own savings, it could be doing flipping, it could be hard money lending, it could be financing, traditional bank financing, owner financing, right? Which is going to be like, and I think we did a video about this as well. I'll try to tag that as well. But that's going to be like if I own a property and I want to sell it to Brian, and he says, I'll give you $5,000 down, and you can carry a balance for $90,000 or $100,000, whatever it might be, and then he's effectively gotten into a property with much lower amount of money.
I think the important thing too is also to get out there and get experience, right? So, it's one thing to buy books and go to Real Estate Investors Association meetings or go online to websites like Bigger Pockets and network virtually, mind you, with people there. That's great. That should be a solid base for anybody that's just getting started out. You've got to learn as much as you can and as quickly as a time frame. But it's really important to actually go out and do. And I think that's the one thing that holds people back is that fear of getting it wrong or making a mistake.
Yeah, and when I'm coaching people, I always tell them that the biggest thing they can do is just do something.
Yeah.
Because if you sit around and read books about real estate or watch YouTube shows about real estate, which you should be doing because YouTube shows about real estate, in particular this one, are great. But if you're doing that kind of stuff, it's real easy to just keep doing that and to never move forward. And you're going to get the most knowledge from the experiences that you have. So the first deal that you do, it's not going to be your best deal. If it is, then that means you only did one deal. Because people have to be learning and growing as they go on. So you need to go out there and start getting experience. And that could be in the form of maybe you saved up some money and you bought a property. But it also could be partnering with someone who's doing real estate and helping them with selling their properties, or helping them with fixing up their properties, or renting their properties, whatever it might be. But like, you need to get experience somewhere, and maybe you want to become a handyman, or maybe you want to work in banking, right? I mean, there's any possible ways, but the key is to get some exposure to the real estate market, because every little bit of experience you have is going to give you that much more knowledge for moving forward.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. You just have to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. You're going to make them. Everybody does.
Yeah, and we're all going to lose money, right? Like, if you're in real estate long enough, you will lose money.
Yes.
Like, you might not lose money on your first deal, although a lot of people do, and you have to be prepared for that. But eventually, you're going to have a deal that goes south. And it might not even be your fault. But the more knowledge you have, the more you mitigate that risk.
Exactly. And that's where, knowing what risk to take in the appropriate situation is really important, and you only get that through doing these things.
Right, and that's why we circle back on that place we started, where it's, risk, effort, and knowledge.
Exactly.
The more effort you put into acquiring knowledge, the more effort you put into managing your properties, the better return you get. The more knowledge you have, the better return you get. And then also you're reducing risk while continuing to keep your returns up by having those two mitigating factors.
Very well said. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, if you aren't already subscribed to the show, you should. There's a little, place where you can hit the subscribe link. But there's a little circle thing that comes up at the end of the show right after I get done talking here, and you just click on that and you can subscribe. Otherwise, hit the little bell. I don't know if you've seen the bell on there, but the bell will actually notify you every time we post a new episode.
Great.
Yeah, and then follow us on Facebook and Twitter and all the other places.
OldFashionedRealEstate.com is our website.
That's right.
You can visit us there. And we thank you for your time today, and we'll be with you again in the near future.
Cheers.
Cheers.